Right, hello everyone. Welcome to Total Football Live, and today I'm going to be first. I'm going to be trying to get hold of um, the stuff that I. I'm just going to put this on this scene for just a second, just so that I can intro what we're doing, and I can also hurriedly find out. Goodness me, I've got all sorts of things going on my watch. Um, I want to find out find the chat and put that on here. You might have noticed I've done a bit of audio shenanigans with my mic because I've been looking for a while to try and get Logic Pro to work as like a throughput into the stream, and it's taken a while, but I have managed to do it. I figured out a way using that, and yeah, the season. Today, I want to talk a bit about this VAR audio that happened today. I was thinking about what can I do during this stuff that. Sorry, during this couple of weeks where basically not a lot's happening because it's the because it's the end of it's the what's going on here. Should be there. Yes. Where's my chat seems to have disappeared. I just want to pop out. What? All I want is my chat, but it's not letting me find it, which is annoying. There it is. Right, good. Pop out chats. Half expecting this just to crash at any moment. Good. And what's the other thing I need to find? The Twitch chat as well. So this isn't quite what I had in mind. And I just realised I did not need that. I don't need these headphones on, so I can take these off. Let's put them over here. So, hope everyone is well. I'm just in the middle of. I started the stream and then I realised, I didn't have a chat to look at, which is obviously not very helpful. There's my pop-up chat. There we go. This is something I should set up, obviously beforehand, but I should be able to set up as like a quick thing that I can do. But there you go. Right, we're there finally. Flipping over. Welcome to Total Football Live. If you haven't already seen, my name is Mike, and I'll be talking a bit about the VAR audio stuff that was released today. PGMOL released a load of audio that was broadcast. Well, it was used during the games in the Premier League the last few weekends, and they tend to do these shows every month or so, thereabouts. And I've definitely seen a couple of them, and I've got to say I've not been happy with the way that they've kind of palmed off certain things. Thinking of, and I can't think exactly off the top of my head, but I remember watching them before and thinking, how have they met? I mean, the Lewis Diaz. Right, hang on. I've got my. Oh wait, no. Go back. Go back. Go back. All right. Which plugin was a problem? Apparently there was a problem with a plugin, but I don't know which one it was. It might have been the noise gate 2. I don't even know. I'm going to check what what sounds bad, because that's a bit dodgy. This is partially a test stream as well, for what it's worth. I am testing out the stream. It doesn't. It sounds like it kind of almost compresses the audio a bit too much, but it's not ideal. But I don't have another way of getting it around. What's going on? Oh yeah, that's fine. Get rid of you. I don't have another way of getting around the problem, so um, we are gonna have a quick look at the. There we go. Then, so we'll be able to do that. There we go. So we're on this. So I'm going to quickly just kind of talk a little bit about today. Actually, it looks like Crew are knocking out Derby in the FA Cup. These are the replays from the first round. Oh no, yeah, first round. I was right. First round. Grimsby won 7-2 against Slough. Flipping Nora. Yeah, Crew have beaten Derby. What a result for Crew that is. That's amazing. But yeah, I just want to talk a little bit about this because honestly, I'm a bit baffled on this bit. I'm absolutely baffled. I hadn't really properly seen this when it first happened. The penalty that was given for Newcastle against Wolves, which absolutely should never have been given in a million years. And it does kind of go to show a bit about how Newcastle have been a bit lucky this season in certain games. Not to mention the game we'll be talking about in a minute, which is the Arsenal game, which is an absolute nightmare. But yeah, this game, Howard Webb says in this TV show that referees should be challenged more by the VAR when the VAR sees something that they think the ref hasn't seen, and basically ask the ref, "Can you see this? Or have you seen this? If not, then please go and look at the screen." And this, I actually like this idea. I do like this idea, but I mean, it sounds like they don't exactly know what's going on with this, because like it's like on the one hand they're saying there's a certain bar they have to reach and they can't. If it doesn't cross that bar, then you can't get involved as VAR. And especially when it comes to fouls, that seems to be there's like fouls and handballs tend to be the biggest grey areas when it comes to this kind of thing. Why now are they saying actually you should probably sit? And this is where I think the key role of the footage that they use, and we're going to come on to this again with Newcastle, the footage that they use is so important to what they do. Because I think there's certain viewpoints, like the referee's viewpoint, I don't think he would have seen much more than guy goes to kick the ball and other player gets his foot in the way, therefore it's a foul, that he actually kicks the player, and because it's in the penalty area, it's a penalty. People don't actually stop to think that it could be a free kick the other way. Possibly. It could be. But there you go. That's one thing. So let's just have a little read of what this says. So, video assistant referees have been asked to be more proactive in challenging officials following a series of controversial decisions. This includes Wolves' Hwang Hee-chan being incorrectly penalised for a foul on Newcastle's Fabian Schär during their 2-2 draw. I wonder if Schär got injured around this time, because he's not played for Newcastle since as well. So we're asking, this is what Howard Webb said, we are asking VARs to have a look, and if they don't like the decision, I don't like that wording, by the way, shouldn't be opinion, it should be if they disagree with the decision, ask the referee what they saw. Now, it's kind of like going around in circles to meet yourself back where you were, kind of thing. And then because I think this is not a perfect, it's nowhere near a perfect solution. I think it's very convenient and it's an easy way, I think, for referees to potentially get out of a situation as well. If the referee's asked, "What did you see?" and the referee then says everything that was actually on the screen, then what are they going to do? That means they have no power. They have to basically say, "Yeah, go ahead with your decision," even if it was wrong, because I think it's talking about, I suppose, interpretation of what was seen on the pitch. And if they say something different, does that mean that they absolutely have to go to the monitor and see what the VAR has seen? I think this it's the wording probably I've got more of a problem with than the actual overall point. Um, the fact that they're kind of making up the rules as they go along is rubbish. Um, this is the kind of thing that I think they could keep this in house. We don't need to see this. As much as it's nice to see that they're developing things in the background. This is a bit like someone releasing a game and they're saying it's in beta, and then the game is constantly coming out with mistakes or like errors, and then they'll come out and say, well, we're going to update this and that and the other. And as much as, yes, you're encouraged as a fan that they're doing that, I think you'd rather just see them actually fix it rather than tell you they're going to fix it, if that makes sense. um yeah, it's ridiculous. I don't like, I'm not a fan of VAR at the moment anyway, but this kind of goes a bit far. Trying to think, is there anything else worth reading? Yeah, Gary O'Neill was not happy after the game. I think he was a very critical. Um, and now I think I want to talk a bit about the other game, the Newcastle Arsenal game, which was a ridiculous decision. I I think this, and actually it was interesting to watch the footage. I'm not going to show it on here because I don't know about the copyright side of things, but it's got to be said, if Newcastle have if Newcastle have gotten a goal from this reason, and I'm only kind of speculating a bit, then I'm so disappointed, and even more than a bit annoyed that we ended up losing that game. So VAR checked first the ball being out or not, and there's like, I think to argue that the ball's curvature could potentially have been over the line is fair. That's okay. That's fine. The problem I have with that isn't so much the ball, and I've spoken about this before, so I feel like I'm repeating myself, but it's not so much the fact that the ball may have been over the line or not. Fine. I do think that is based on what we've seen, a it's subjective. Unfortunately, it shouldn't be subjective, but it is, unfortunately. Why is the technology not there to deal with that? There should be cameras across the goal line which see that from both sides. And then if in the really unlikely scenario that there are players blocking the view on both sides, fair enough. You can't really do much about that, but I think that's going to be so rare. I wouldn't then be coming out and saying, "Why is the technology not in there for this?" That's fair enough. I wouldn't mind, but in this case, the technology is there. It's not like the offside, which you could argue players are blocking on both sides, so it's difficult to really tell where the ball is and how to actually get to that offside. In this case, the ball is in a place on the line, completely visible from both sides of the goal, but for some reason there isn't a camera directly above, or not even directly above, but like alongside, looking down the line. And I think it's a bit ridiculous. They also actually mention in the in the analysis afterwards that Howard Webb said that there was a referee, there was an assistant ref looking at the ball, as if that was some kind of justification, and saying yes, he'll definitely be able to see that, no problem. He's looking right down the line. No, he's not. Yeah, he's very close, and it's probably the closest pair of eyes to it apart from players. But even then, I'm like, well, that's not. If you're saying that the looking further away from that angle isn't that great because of the fact that the ball is the ball is curved, so it could potentially hang over the line. The same argument could be said for the referee. And there's a big flipping pole in the way as well. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't think that's right. Get some cameras in. Get some more cameras in. Sort it out, because I think that if that happened at the Emirates, I think you'd. I'm pretty sure there are cameras situated in such a place that you'd be able to tell for absolute sure that it was in or out. Absolute sure. For some reason, it's in James's Park. None. Let's move on to the foul. This foul is a foul. Now, one thing I did notice when they went through the replays, and I'm assuming that the replays we saw were the ones that they saw in the VAR booth. They weren't particularly specific about whether whether the well, I've lost my train of thought there. So I'm reading as well as doing it. So he's saying, I see two hands on his back, but I don't see any kind of push that warrants him flying forward like that. So the problem I've got with this isn't so much the decision, but the context that the referees are given for that decision. And these videos they've taken from far away as possible from the ball. They're taken from the other side of the pitch, from the other end of the pitch. Why is that the best place to see if there's a foul or not? I do not understand why that's the case. I think what I want to do actually is I want to just switch scenes for a second, because I'm gonna just go and watch the let's see if I can find this, because I'm not a fan of how this went. I'm really, really not a fan. I've got to find this though, which is going to be interesting. Is it Sky Sports Premier League? Here we go. So I'm going to turn that off. And I just want to see. It's just the Gabriel one I'm that bothered about, because I think I'll get on. While I'm waiting for this, I'll talk about the offside. I think it's fair to say they couldn't really find a point of contact for the ball, and they can't just guess when the ball's been hit. That's fair enough. I don't really have a problem with that. Is there any problem with the offside? I think it is offside, but again, I'm guessing. I can't figure that out off the top of my head. Right, let's have a look at this then. So yeah, so although it looks out, you've got the curvature of the ball. Fair enough. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So they look. Yeah. Yeah. Apparently, I've got to go to bed. There you go. This is riveting content. Okay. So they're saying here there could be. Oh no, they do. Okay, sorry, I take it back. They do look at from behind. Okay, so they're saying that high from behind might be better. I don't see a specific foul on Gabriel. I see two hands on his back, but I don't see anything of a push that warrants him flying forward like that. So he's actually looked at. He's looked at one thing, and he's looked at A and B and come up with C. Basically, he said, and I need to kind of slow this down a bit just to kind of, just for my own sake, really, so I can actually see what's gone on. So let's go back here. So he has his hands. He has two hands on his back, and he's flying forward because he's trying to get the ball, but because of the push from Joe Linton, it's I just don't get it. And there are other. The thing is, there are other things. There are other. Yeah. Okay. So there's one. There's one which actually on the far side, and I'm going to go full 360 here with what I said earlier. On the far side, how close does Raya get to that ball? By the way, he gets very, very close. there's a touch on the far side. Or is it near side? I think it's near side. Yeah, where he clearly pushes. He's about to. Gabriel is about to head the ball, flick the ball up with his head like that. Joe Linton has got his hands on his head and just gives a little push. It's not much, but it's enough for him to miss the ball entirely. Now, I think that's a foul because that's a game changing moment there. It's a game changing moment because I think if Gabriel gets the flick on like he intends, that ball goes flying up, probably nowhere near the goal, and goalkeeper will probably claim it. The fact that he makes that tiny little but and it's small enough that the referees don't consider it a foul, but it's big enough that it enables them to score the goal. I don't think I get that really. And also talking about like, can you see where the ball is? I think you can see where the ball makes the last connection with Joe Linton on that last angle. But what you can't see is that um, is the ball from the angle that they need to draw the lines on. So there you go. The offside's a bit of a moot point. But yeah, it's I'm not happy with that challenge at all. Really, really not. And we'll have to wait and see whether things around that change. I think the foul is just something that will just happen. The foul a uh, isn't a particularly big deal. It's not something that I think. Like I'm not going to say it's not a big deal, but it's not something that they can implement any changes to stop from happening again. If that makes sense, I just don't think they can do anything about that. Really, they're never going to be able to do anything about that. So yeah, I kind of I despair a bit at the quality of the referees, especially given the technology that they've got. They can analyze that to its nth degree if they want to, and they don't. They just kind of say the fact that it happens. I think this is the biggest thing that stood out for me. They make that decision about the foul so quickly. It's about 5 seconds, 10 seconds from the minute of looking at the foul to then saying, right, no, it's definitely not a foul. It's definitely not a foul. And I think the referee as well, it's very quick to blow for a goal. I think it's given how much was there. I suppose they have to make a decision of some kind. But at this point, what's the point in relying on the referees for a decision? Because whatever decision they're going to make, they're going to say, just carry on the play as it was. I'm not going to get involved. VAR will do everything. And that's not actually helping the situation at all because VAR is only there as a safeguard in case something massive has been missed. And if there's anything kind of close, they won't get involved, as you saw with the Gabriel foul. What the referee should have done is blown for a foul after the play had finished, and then probably the goal would not have stood because I think the foul would never have been overturned. They wouldn't turn around to the referee and say, nope, that's not a foul. Because there is enough justification for there to be a foul. But because he doesn't blow for a foul, they don't actually change his mind for that foul either. And I think that's, in the end, that's the problem that VAR has caused a little bit unintentionally. Is this idea that the referees can get away with guessing by not doing anything, guessing through passivity, essentially. Yeah, I am so not a fan of that. Anyway, let's look at something a bit more interesting, a bit more encouraging as an Arsenal fan. Anyway, is the Premier League table. It's the other thing I want to do tonight, as we're on. Was it 10 o'clock? Is looking at the table and just kind of discussing some of the starts that these teams have had, that every team has had. I'm going to quickly go down. I think a lot of we'll see how far we get. I'm going to start with the top and go down. So Man City, obviously, good starts, but they've lost 2 games already, which is more than Arsenal and Liverpool. They're still top, But I think City have chinks in the armour. Whether they remain for the rest of the season, I don't know. There's players like Doku who has definitely turned up and done pretty well. I was very surprised that Doku didn't do quite as well against the Chelsea backline as you'd have thought. If anything, more of the threat was coming from the right hand side, not the left. Um, but they have scored the most goals in the league. They've conceded 12, which is more than Liverpool and Arsenal. Um, but it's definitely a very, very close run thing, I think, at the top. Liverpool, I'm not. I know I'm an Arsenal fan, and that's not something that will be surprising. This might be something that's surprising to hear from many people. But as an Arsenal fan, I'm going to try and remove my bias from this. But I'm not convinced about Liverpool. I think they've shown against Luton away. Yes, we haven't really seen Luton play any of the other big teams at home. I don't think this season, and they made Man United sweat at Old Trafford. But then I think most teams this season have made Man United sweat at Old Trafford. I don't think they've actually got a very good home record, from what I remember. Um, so Liverpool have been interesting, and I think they have the beginnings of a team that could be really, really good in a couple of years' time, maybe even next season. Um, but what they do lack is that defensive midfield pivot, or that anchor. Um, and I think against Brentford, they were very fortunate. Brentford should have scored at least one, maybe two goals. Obviously, they drew against Luton, and they lost against Spurs. And I think actually they're very unfortunate to lose that game. So that's a much stronger outfit. I don't know if they can necessarily challenge City, because every time I watch them, I think they can be got at down both wings. I don't think they've got a now that Robertson's out. I don't think they've got a good defensive option in either fullback position, which is a problem for them because they will come against teams. I mean, if we look at their fixtures, obviously they've got City, which is a real test of what I was just talking about with the fullbacks, and then they've got Fulham at home, Sheffield United away, Palace away, which is a tough game as well, by the way. That Sheffield United away game is difficult. And then Man United at home, which, as much as everyone's joking about Man United, I do think that'll be tough for Liverpool as well. Although I think, to be fair, I don't think it'll matter too much about how good their defence is, because I think Man United just won't threaten them, and they'll probably end up scoring 4 or 5. And then, of course, the next Premier League will be Arsenal. Premier League game will be Arsenal at Anfield, which is always a tough game, and the fact that it's a 5:30 kickoff as well just makes me think, oh gosh, it's very different to that game that we played last season, which was on a Sunday in the middle of the afternoon. I think we were pretty favoured in that timing. Um, but I mean, I remember night games at Anfield, and they've just gone so badly for Arsenal. So we will see with Liverpool, and I'm holding out judgment at the moment, but they do look okay, and it's very difficult to argue with these stats. They've beaten 8 teams in the Premier League, almost the best in the league. In fact, if you look at the games they've got left, they've got City, uh, Man United, and Arsenal. Still 3 of the top 7 teams, top 6 teams to play. So it's not completely inconceivable that you could see Arsenal, that you could see Liverpool being pretty close to the top by Christmas, I think. But those games are going to definitely test them. Obviously, if they lose against City, I think that changes things somewhat for Liverpool, because they need to given that Arsenal, albeit it was at the Emirates, but Arsenal have already beaten City. So they've kind of set that standard now. If you want to win the title, I think you do probably need to get a result against City this season. Unless City capitulate. I don't see that happening. Arsenal, good start. They've not looked that great this season, but that as an Arsenal fan gives me a lot of hope for the rest of the season, because I don't think we can necessarily play this bad for the rest of the season. I think there are certain elements of our team that are missing. Firstly, it was a massive shame to lose Timber right at the start of the season for the whole season. That is such ridiculously bad luck, because I think having him in this team would give it so much more flexibility in what we want to do. I think there's a few games this season which we drew or lost and we would have won. Thinking the Newcastle game. In fact, actually, if you taking apart, even without Timber, if you add in Odegaard, Jesus to that Arsenal team, just Odegaard and Jesus, no one else, not even Partey. Obviously, if you're in Partey as well, even more of an argument, we win that game against Newcastle, it's no question. And it's fair to say we haven't really played with our best first team all season. You could say that City have had it for a few games. Liverpool don't even know what it is at the moment. Spurs have had it for a lot of games. They've had it for most of the season so far. And Villa have had it for most of the season as well. So, yeah, of all the teams up there, Arsenal are the team that have probably been the handicap the most. And they're the team who are 1 point off the top. Not bad. If we get a bit of luck with injuries between now and Christmas, and if you look at our fixtures as well, I think Arsenal are in a great position. We've got obviously Lens in the Champions League. Looking forward to watching that game. I'll be live streaming. Not like I'll be doing a watch along for that game definitely. Brentford away, difficult game typically, but I would expect Arsenal to win that game. We need to win games like that as well this season if we're going to do it. And it's also worth remembering. Last season, Brentford away, we played. I think it was the day or the weekend um, after the Queen died, which obviously is a very emotional time for a lot of people, but it did kind of take, I think that whole event took a lot of the emotion out of games like Brentford away, which normally would have been a bear pit, but because of that event, it meant that Arsenal went there, won 3-0 and looked really comfortable. Whether we would have done that had that not happened, I don't know. But there you go. Then we've got Wolves at home, Luton away, Villa away, PSV at home, Brighton away, Liverpool away, West Ham at home. It's a tricky-ish run of fixtures, but I mean, a lot of those games you'd expect, like beat Brentford, beat Wolves, beat Luton. I mean, yeah, beat Villa, even away from home, beat Villa. I think we can deal with them. Beat Brighton, although our record against Brighton is shocking. And then beat Liverpool. Well, draw against Liverpool, beat West Ham. There's only really one of those games which I look at and I think that's like that could be an immediate L, possibly. Although to be fair, we drew at Anfield last season and probably should have won had we held out for the win. So we'll see. I'm not as yeah. I'm not as discouraged as I think a few Arsenal fans are from our start to the season. I'm concerned about Havertz, but I think give him time and he'll play into this team. The problem is, I think the fact that he's so languid. He reminds me of Özil in that way. The fact that he's so languid in how he plays, it doesn't really help when it comes to fan appreciation. But if he gets the technical quality right and scores, I mean, he's done. I've seen him do some crazy things for Germany and for Chelsea in the past. So why couldn't he do it with Arsenal? I think, given the positions that he could find himself in. Okay, that's still going though. That's fine. Weird. There's an issue with logic which keeps popping up, which might not be particularly helpful. We will see though. Oh yeah, okay. Sorry. I was looking at an email which looked concerning, but it's not. It's fine. So yeah, I think there's a few players like Fabio Vieira is now out for 3 games because of that red card, and I'm concerned about him as well. But I think he was a £50 million gamble, which hasn't really come off. And I think there's not very many other players I'm concerned about. To be fair, there's a lot of players that are doing really, really well. I think Saka seems to have come back into form a little bit. He's really enjoying Europe at the moment, as well as playing very well in the Champions League. And that is the other thing as well about Arsenal this season. We're in the Champions League this year, and I could see us going quite a long way. I think there's not many teams that will sit there and look forward to a game against Arsenal and expect to beat us. There's maybe City, obviously, but I mean, if we did end up playing United and Newcastle, I think we'd beat them over 2 legs, no question. And I don't think we will play them because I think they'll both be out by the group stages. Um, I'm thinking obviously Bayern Munich would expect to beat us still. The history's obviously on their side. Real Madrid, yes. Barcelona, no. They were in the Europa League last season and they've got a few good players, but I think we could deal with them. Defensively, they're not that great. So yeah, I'm trying to think of other teams. Inter obviously got to the final last year, a pretty good team. They haven't changed it massively from last season. I can't think of many others right now. PSG, obviously. But I mean, they're struggling to get through their group right now. So I don't know. I think Arsenal would have a problem with PSG. I think if they played it tactically correctly against Arsenal and and managed to make Mbappe isolated against a fullback and like him against Ben White. That does not sound like a fight I want to see at all. So I think Arsenal are set up really, really well now that they're almost qualified for the knockout stages. They are set up really well if they win their group to potentially make a run. And if things fall into place in terms of their position in the draw by the time they get to the quarterfinals, and remember, Inter got their way to the final through a very favourable draw, which led them not having to play Real Madrid or Bayern Munich or any of these teams, not even City until the final. That definitely helps. And also the fact that Liverpool aren't in it this year makes a big difference because I think if Liverpool were in the Champions League this year, I think there would be another one of those teams that would be considered favourites to win it. Even though a lot of people would think Liverpool aren't quite as good a team as they were a few years ago. I think just because of their European pedigree, the amount of times they've not been that great in the league and they've still gone on to either win or come close to winning the Champions League, I think that's a big deal. Right, Tottenham. Uh, what do we say about Tottenham? They are doing the ultimate Spursy at the moment. They were 8-2-0 2 games ago. Now they're 8-2-2. Quite shockingly. Is it shocking? I don't know. I think that game against Chelsea has somewhat ruined their season, at least half of it. We won't expect to see James Maddison and Van der Ven back until January. We know that Romero is out for another 2 games. We know that. Is it 2 games? I think it is 2 games. Yeah, pretty sure he's out for 3 games in total. So yeah, he'll be out for another 2 games. They'll have a doggy back, but their midfield and their midfield's the only, not even that really, because Madison plays in midfield. I think their defense is just absolutely shot. The fact that they have to rely on players like Davies and Dyer at the back against Wolves just showed really why that is a problem for them. It's a massive, massive problem for Tottenham because the way they want to play is high press, high line, catch people offside. They ain't going to be able to recover if they get that wrong with players like Dyer and Davies. But they also, I don't think, can start to play a deep line because they're not set up for that either. And also, I think they're missing Basuma as well in the next game. They are playing Man City soon. In fact, if we look at their fixtures, looks like I'm just looking at the top few teams. I'm not going to go into this much detail for the rest of the teams in the league. They're playing Villa at home, City away, West Ham at home, Newcastle at home, Forest away, Everton at so Everton at home is potentially the next what you might call easy game for Spurs, although they've made some easy games this season look very, very difficult. Sheffield United, for one. I think we could see, and people are calling this, I've seen a few videos where people have called this Tottenham plummet like a stone and end up 7th or 8th by the time we hit Christmas. We'll see. I don't think they're going to be quite that bad. I would expect them to pick up a good result against Villa. Villa are terrible away from home. I would expect them to cause some problems to City, given how aggressive they are. But without a player like Maddison, I don't know how they unlock that City defence. I think they would really they'll struggle to play their way through, and I think I can see City dominating that game. West Ham against Spurs is actually usually quite a tricky game for Spurs, so that'll be interesting. I'm doing a watch along for that game as well. Um, Tottenham, Newcastle always difficult prospect, but it is at Spurs, and then Forest away really tricky. I'm expecting them to drop points in that game. That's what, one, two, three, two. If I'm being generous, I could say Tottenham should be winning 3 or 4 of those 6 games. That's generous. If you're not being generous, you could say they could lose all 6 of them. But I mean, that feels like wishful thinking. Uh, um, so yeah, we will see with that. And I think this will probably be. Are we going to talk about Man United? They're just a lot of people talk about them as boring. I'm like, yeah, I don't think we'll talk about Villa. They've had an amazing start to the season, given their standing in the Premier League. I don't think they can necessarily. I think they finished 7th last year. They are currently 7th, 5th. Of course, they are 5th. They're currently 5th. I mean, 5th this year could potentially get you Champions League football, which would be amazing for a club like Villa. I'd love to see them in the Champions League, um, especially next season where you get 8 games in the group stages. I think that's really, really good. But um, the next games are tricky, as I've already said. Villa are playing Spurs away. They're playing Bournemouth away, then City at home, then Arsenal at home, then Brentford away, then Sheffield United at home, then Man United away. Okay, so if ever you want a kind of an explanation of why a team is where it is right now, that is probably a really good explanation. Because look at this: you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 top half teams out of the next 1, 2. I'm going to dodge all the Europa League games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 5 of the next 7 games are against teams in the top half of the table. And that kind of says to me that they've already played quite a few teams in the bottom half and got good results. And you've got to give credit to them. Arsenal had this thrown at them last season when they kept beating the lower teams, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's only them. It's only Burnley," as people have been saying this week. It's only Burnley, or it's only Everton, or whoever. I don't know. But then you've got to beat them. You've got to beat them because then you put yourself in a position to be able to win games against the big teams, and then it counts because if you win against the top teams, you win against the lower teams, all of a sudden you're beating everyone and you're potentially top of the league. So if Villa do end up actually going on and winning these games, I mean, you are talking about a title there, no question. I don't see that happening. I probably see them losing to Spurs. Probably see them drawing, but probably beating Bournemouth. And then I see them losing to City, losing to Arsenal, losing to Brentford, and losing to Man United. They'll probably beat Sheffield United. I'd expect them to beat them. But I think there's a few defeats coming their way, probably. But is that necessarily a problem for Villa? You can get away with quite a lot of defeats and still finish top 5. Which is also bringing it back to Arsenal for a second, is the reason why I think I'm enjoying this Arsenal season, because my target, weirdly, and this goes back like 2 years from when Arteta really started getting the team going. I was saying we need to be in the Champions League for 2024-25 because that's when the format changes and that's when all the money comes in for that tournament, and that will change a lot. Also, from a slightly selfish point of view, that's when we'll be on Match of the Day. But the Champions League Match of the Day, which I've been waiting for years. It's been a long time since the BBC managed to get highlights of European football. I think it's before I was even watching football, actually, to be fair. So yeah, that's really big. Obviously, I don't think there's any kind of notable shocks down. I mean, I'm surprised that Fulham are down where they are, to be fair. They've not had a good time of it. But Bournemouth being where they are, not surprising. But at the moment, Everton, it's almost like with Everton, I want to talk about a couple of these teams down here. Everton, ever since they heard they might get a 12-point deduction, they just started playing well. Because if you look at this, I'm going to look at this. Look at these fixtures, right? So let's go back. I don't remember when. In fact, let's quickly just search. So how are we going to do this? Everton point deduction. That was the 26th of October. Right. So let's have a look at games since the 26th of October. And I guarantee you they've done really, really well. So 26th. So 29th, 1-0 win for against West Ham. Then the EFL Cup, they beat Burnley. Then the draw against Brighton, which is a good result. Then they've recently beaten Crystal Palace. Now that might just be a fluke. That might just be fluke. But for me, look at the results before that game. And yes, they beat Bournemouth 3-0, but they lost against Liverpool. They lost against Luton. Okay, they beat Brentford. They lost against Arsenal. Drew with Sheffield United. Lost against Wolves. Lost against Villa. Lost against Fulham. So I think there's a lot of that might have been a bit of kind of carrying some of last season into this season, but I've got to say it's. I think the fact that they've really picked up, because I think they needed to win games. They knew they needed to win games anyway, but I think they now need to win games even more so. And that result has, I think those results have really made a big difference, because look at where they are in the league. 14 points. Only what do they need? 38 points to stay up? Probably less than that, I'd say, at this point, given how few Luton, Sheffield United, and Burnley have. Although remember that teams usually pick up their pace towards the end of a season in the relegation zone. They start to get more results. So we'll see. But I think that's Forest. Those Everton results have been really good for them. And then we've had, who else do I want to talk about? Oh yeah, Wolves doing really well. 12th. Everyone was tipping them for relegation this season, but they've done very well, and I'm really impressed with the manager. They've obviously beaten Spurs. Some of their results have been absolutely shocking. They didn't deserve a lot of them, got to say. They lost to Sheffield United, should never have lost that game. Drew against Newcastle, should never have drawn that game, should have won that. Beat Bournemouth, deserved. Drew against Villa, deserved. Beat Man City, definitely deserved. And it's those results against Man City and Spurs which really stand out, I think. They lost at home to Liverpool, which could actually be a bit of a key result looking back at it, because so far City have gone to Wolves and lost. Liverpool have gone to Wolves and won. Arsenal are going to Wolves pretty soon, I think. That's in fact, let's just check. It might be in December. I think it's in December. Oh no, they're playing at the Emirates. That's a bit different. I don't know when we're playing them, but it'll probably be in the new year sometime. But that's, yeah, really good season for Wolves so far. And I think if they can finish top half, that's an amazing season for them. Fantastic. Right. I don't know how long we've been going. I think we've been going for quite a long time. Yes. About an hour, almost an hour. So, yeah, I think I'm happy with where we're at in this stream. It's never going to be, these kind of streams are probably going to be quite sporadic. I might do another one of these talking about the international break, but is there much to talk about? I might be, well, no, I will be watching the Wales game against Armenia and the game against Turkey. Apart from that, there really isn't that much else. And obviously, a bit of this has been about testing the tech for a different kind of approach to recording my mic. But yeah, I think we're going to leave it there. We'll leave it there. Thank you very much for watching, everyone who's watched on catch up or live. And I will see you guys on Saturday if not before, for the live watch along between Wales and Armenia. But until then, that's been Total Football. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you then.